The inheritance that changed everything. When the lawyer read my late husband's will and announced I was inheriting absolutely nothing, my 3 children smiled. When he continued reading and revealed that George had left his entire $2.3 million estate to his beloved mistress of 20 years, my children gasped in horror. But when the lawyer removed his glasses, looked directly at me and said, "Mrs. Patricia Hensworth, you are the mistress he's referring to. Your 45-year marriage was never legal," I realized my dead husband had just played the greatest trick from beyond the grave. Let me explain how a 75-year-old widow discovered she'd been living a lie for nearly half a century, and how that lie became the key to her freedom. My name is Patricia Hensworth, or at least that's what I thought it was. For 45 years, I was married to George Hensworth, a successful real estate developer. We raised 3 children: Richard, 44, Catherine, 41, and Michael, 38. I was the perfect wife. I hosted dinner parties, managed the household, supported George's career, and dedicated every moment to my family. George died suddenly 3 months ago from a heart attack. The grief was crushing, but I had my children, or so I thought. The day after the funeral, Richard sat me down with a serious expression. "Mom, we need to talk about the house." "The house?" I was confused. "This was my home for 40 years. Dad's house," Catherine corrected coldly. "It's worth $1.2 million. We need to sell it and split the proceeds." "Split it? But I live here. This is my home." Michael jumped in. "Mom, you're 75. You don't need this much space. We found a nice senior living facility. It's very affordable." My blood ran cold. "You want to put me in a home and sell my house?" "It's not your house, Mom," Richard said flatly. "It's Dad's estate. We're the beneficiaries. I'm your father's wife. Everything goes to me first." Catherine laughed. Actually laughed. "Mom, that's not how Dad set things up. He told us years ago that the estate would be divided among us children. He said you'd be taken care of, but the assets would go to us." I felt like I'd been slapped. "Your father never discussed this with me, because he knew you'd get emotional," Richard said dismissively. "Don't worry, Mom. The senior facility is nice. You'll make friends." That's when I called George's lawyer, Mr. Edmund Stone, and demanded to see the will immediately. The reading was scheduled for the following week. My 3 children arrived in expensive cars, wearing designer clothes, already spending their inheritance in their minds. They barely spoke to me, too busy discussing how they'd divide the properties, the investment accounts, the vacation home in Aspen. Mr. Stone entered the room, a distinguished man in his 70s, with an expression I couldn't quite read. He sat down, opened his briefcase, and pulled out a thick document. "Before I begin," he said slowly, "I need to tell you that George came to see me 6 months before he died. He made some very unusual changes to his will, and left me with specific instructions on how to present this information." Richard leaned forward eagerly. "Let's get started." Mr. Stone cleared his throat and began reading. "I, George Marcus Hensworth, being of sound mind and body, do hereby declare this to be my last will and testament." Standard opening. My children relaxed. "To my son Richard, who has asked me for money every month for the past 10 years while earning a 6-figure salary, I leave the sum of $1. Richard's face went purple. "What?" "To my daughter Catherine, who told her mother she was too busy to visit me in the hospital last year because she had a spa appointment, I leave the sum of $1. Catherine gasped. "This is a joke." "To my son Michael, who borrowed $50,000 from me for his business venture and spent it on a sports car, I leave the sum of $1. Michael stood up. "Dad wouldn't do this." "Sit down," Mr. Stone said firmly. "I'm not finished." The room fell silent. "The remainder of my estate, including all properties, investments, accounts, and assets totaling approximately $2.3 million, I leave entirely to my beloved mistress of 20 years, the woman who stood by me through everything, who loved me unconditionally, and who deserves far better than what I gave her." You could have heard a pin drop. My children turned to stare at me with identical expressions of shock and rage. "Mom, did you know about this?" Richard demanded. "Did Dad have another woman?" I was as shocked as they were. "George had a mistress? For 20 years?" Mr. Stone held up his hand. there's more. George left a letter explaining everything. Would you like me to read it? Yes, all three of my children shouted simultaneously. Mr. Stone opened an envelope and began reading in George's voice. Words my husband had written months before his death. To my children, if you're hearing this, it means you've already shown your true colors to your mother. I've been watching for years as you treated her like an inconvenience, as you asked me for money while ignoring her, as you made plans for your inheritance, within earshot of the woman who raised you. Patricia, my darling wife, I need to tell you something I should have confessed years ago. Our marriage was never legal. When I married you in 1978, I was technically still married to my first wife, Jennifer. We'd separated years before, and I thought the divorce was finalized. But there was a legal error. The divorce was never officially recorded. I discovered this 20 years ago when Jennifer contacted me about selling a property we'd owned together. I had to get the divorce properly finalized then, which means, my love, for the first 25 years we were together, you were technically my mistress, not my wife. I never told you because I was ashamed, and because I knew it didn't change anything about our love. We were married quietly, legally, 20 years ago, on our 25th anniversary. Remember that renewal of vows ceremony I insisted on? That was actually our real wedding. I told you it was romantic. In truth, it was necessary. But here's what matters. You, Patricia, are the only woman I ever truly loved. You are my legal wife. Everything I have belongs to you. I structured it this way to protect you from our children, who I fear will try to take advantage of you after I'm gone. To Richard, Catherine, and Michael, your mother is a wealthy woman now. How you treat her moving forward will determine whether you get anything when she passes. I suggest you start showing her the respect and love she deserves, because unlike me, she can change her will anytime she wants. Patricia, my love, live the life we always dreamed of. Travel, enjoy yourself, and don't let anyone make you feel guilty for it. You've earned every penny of this inheritance through 45 years of love, patience, and grace. All my love, even from beyond. George. The silence in that room was deafening. I sat there, tears streaming down my face as I processed everything. George had known. He'd protected me. He'd loved me enough to orchestrate this entire revelation to shield me from our children's greed. Richard found his voice first. This is insane. We'll contest this, Will. There's no way. The will is ironclad. Mr. Stone interrupted. I made sure of it. George knew you'd try to fight it. Every legal expert in the state has reviewed this document. Patricia is the sole heir. End of story. Catherine turned to me with sudden tears in her eyes. Fake tears. I'd seen them before. Mom, surely you're not going to keep everything? We're your children. Dad was clearly not thinking straight at the end. Your father, I said quietly, finding my voice for the first time, was thinking more clearly than he had in years. Michael tried next. Mom, we're family. Family shares. You don't need all that money, but you do, I asked. You, who makes $200,000 a year. You need my money? Or Catherine, whose husband is a surgeon? Or Richard, who's a partner at a law firm? None of them answered. Do you know, I continued, my voice growing stronger, that I haven't bought myself new clothes in 3 years, because I was saving money to help you with your emergencies, that I've been eating canned soup for dinner so I could send Richard money for his daughter's private school, that I canceled my subscription to my book club, my only social outlet, to help Michael with his business. Mom, we didn't ask you to do those things, Catherine started. You didn't have to ask. I'm your mother. I wanted to help, but not once. Not once in the past 5 years has any of you asked me how I'm doing. When was the last time you called just to talk? When was the last time you visited without needing something? The truth hung in the air like smoke. Mr. Stone, I said, turning to the lawyer. What do I need to do to claim this inheritance? He smiled. Just sign here, Mrs. Hensworth. Everything is already in your name. I signed. My children watched in horror as their inheritance evaporated before their eyes. Richard tried one more time. Mom, please. Let's talk about this reasonably. Get out, I said quietly. What? Get out of this office. Get out of my house. Get out of my life until you can treat me like a human being instead of an ATM. They left, furious and defeated. After they were gone, Mr. Stone handed me another envelope. George asked me to give you this privately. Inside was a letter in George's handwriting. My dearest Patricia, if you're reading this, the reading is over, and our children have shown their true nature. I'm sorry you had to see it, but I knew you needed to see it with your own eyes. I've watched for years as they took advantage of your generous heart. I said nothing because I'm a coward and I didn't want conflict. But I couldn't let them do it after I was gone. You once told me that you gave up your dream of becoming a writer to support my career. You said it didn't matter because our family mattered more. But it did matter, my love. And I robbed you of that dream. Inside this envelope is contact information from my publisher friend, James Whitmore. He's expecting your call. He wants to help you write your memoir. Your story deserves to be told. Also included is a deed to the beach house we always talked about buying. I purchased it last year as a surprise. It's yours now. Go there, write, live. And Patricia, date, find love if you want it. Remarry if someone makes you happy. You're only 75. You have years ahead of you. Don't waste them grieving for me or feeling guilty for living. I love you. I always have. Even when I was too stupid to show it properly. Yours forever, George. I sat in that office and sobbed. For George. For the years we'd had. For the years we'd lost. For myself and the life I'd postponed. But then I dried my eyes, took the documents, and walked out of that office a wealthy woman with a future ahead of her. The first thing I did was change my phone number. If my children wanted to contact me, they'd have to do it through Mr. Stone. The second thing I did was go to the beach house. It was perfect. 3 bedrooms, wall of windows overlooking the ocean, a study with built-in bookshelves just waiting for my books. The third thing I did was start writing. My memoir began with that day in the lawyer's office, but it expanded to include everything. My childhood, meeting George, the marriage that wasn't a marriage, raising children who grew to resent me, the slow realization that I'd lost myself somewhere along the way. Writing became therapy. Every word I typed was another piece of myself I reclaimed. 3 months passed. No contact from my children, which was both freeing and heartbreaking. But I was too busy living to dwell on it. I joined a local book club. I took painting classes. I volunteered at the library. I made friends with my neighbors, particularly a lovely widow named Susan, who was 80 and had more energy than people half her age. Patricia, she told me one day over coffee, you're blooming. I've watched you transform from this sad, withdrawn woman into someone vibrant. What changed? I stopped living for other people's approval. I answered simply. I started living for myself. 6 months after George's death, my doorbell rang. I opened it to find Catherine standing there, looking tired and older than her 41 years. Mom, she said quietly, can we talk? Every instinct told me to slam the door, but I'd raised this woman, loved her, despite everything. Come in, I said. We sat in my beautiful living room overlooking the ocean. Catherine looked around with something like regret in her eyes. This place is gorgeous, she said. Thank you. Silence stretched between us. Mom, I came to apologize. Not because I want your money. I know you probably don't believe that, but it's true. I came because I've spent 6 months thinking about what Dad said in that letter, about how we treated you. And he was right. I waited. I got so caught up in my own life, my own problems, my own desires, that I forgot you were a person. You were just, Mom, always there, always giving. I never stopped to think about what you needed or wanted. And what changed? I asked. My daughter asked me last week if I'd help her move. She's 19, moving into her first apartment, and I snapped at her. I told her I was too busy, and she looked at me with this expression of hurt and disappointment. And suddenly I saw myself through her eyes. I saw you through your eyes. Catherine started crying. Real tears this time. I don't want to be the mother whose daughter dreads calling her. I don't want to be the daughter who only shows up when she needs something. I want to be better. And I know I have no right to ask, but I'm hoping you'll give me the chance to try. I looked at my daughter and saw genuine remorse. Not manipulation, not greed. Just sorrow and a desire to change. Catherine, I said carefully, I can't go back to who I was. That woman who gave everything and asked nothing in return, she's gone. If we rebuild this relationship, it has to be different, equal. You need to see me as Patricia, not just as Mom, the resource. I understand, and I mean it about the money. What I have is mine. When I die, you and your brothers will inherit what's left, if anything. But while I'm alive, this is my security, my freedom, my future. I'm not here for money, Mom. I'm here because I miss you. I miss the woman who would call me just to share a recipe or a funny story. I miss having a mother who feels like a friend, not an obligation. We talked for hours that day, really talked for the first time in years, about her marriage, her children, her fears, about my writing, my new life, my dreams for the future. When she left, she hugged me tightly. Thank you for giving me another chance. Richard and Michael never came. I heard through Catherine that Richard was furious, convinced I'd manipulated George's will somehow. Michael had cut off contact completely, embarrassed by what had happened. And you know what? I was okay with that. Not every relationship can be saved. Not every family member deserves unlimited chances. Year after George's death, my memoir was finished. James Whitmore, George's publisher friend, read it and offered me a contract immediately. Patricia, he said, this story is going to resonate with so many women who've lost themselves in service to others. You've written something powerful here. The book was published 6 months later. The Mistress, a memoir of marriage, motherhood, and finding myself at 75. It became a bestseller. Suddenly, I was on talk shows, at book signings, speaking at events. Women of all ages reached out to share their own stories of being taken for granted, of waking up one day and wondering who they'd become. At one book signing, a young woman approached me with tears in her eyes. Mrs. Hensworth, I'm 32 years old, and I've spent the last 10 years taking care of everyone but myself. Your book made me realize I don't have to wait until I'm 75 to reclaim my life. Thank you. That's when I realized George's final gift wasn't just the money. It was showing me that it's never too late to start over. Never too late to choose yourself. Never too late to live authentically. I'm 76 now, 1 year older and infinitely wiser. I live in my beach house, write every day, have a thriving social life, and speak regularly about the importance of self-worth and boundaries. Catherine visits regularly, and we have a relationship I never thought possible. We're friends now, not just mother and daughter. She's learned to give without expecting, and I've learned to receive without guilt. Richard sent me a brief email last month. Just 3 sentences. I'm sorry. You deserved better. I hope you're happy. It's not much, but it's something. Maybe one day we'll talk. Michael, I heard, got divorced and moved across the country. I sent him a card letting him know I loved him and my door was always open. He never responded, but I made the gesture. That's all I can do. As for George, I visit his grave monthly and tell him about my adventures, about the book, about the life I'm living. Sometimes, I'm angry at him for waiting until he was gone to give me permission to live. Sometimes I'm grateful he did it at all, but mostly I'm grateful for the lesson his final act taught me. That love shouldn't require you to disappear. That sacrifice shouldn't mean erasing yourself. That being a good mother, wife, or person doesn't mean having no boundaries or self-worth. The inheritance George left me wasn't just money. It was my identity back. My voice, my future, my proof that I mattered beyond what I could provide for others. I was his mistress for 20 years without knowing it, his legal wife for 20 more. And now I'm finally just Patricia, not somebody mother, not somebody wife, just me. And that's the greatest inheritance of all. Have you ever lost yourself while taking care of others? Have you waited too long to start living for yourself? Share your story in the comments. Remember, it's never too late to reclaim your life. Whether you're 25, 55, or 75, you deserve to be more than what you can give to others. You deserve to be yourself.